Hello again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video I want to talk about managing noise in the signal chain. It's inspired by a comment or a conversation I was having in the comment section with, I think it was Zach, on one of the videos that I did about the TC Electronic Sentry noise gate pedal. Zach's particular case, he had noise in the signal chain, and he said, basically, could I just put noise gate between the amplifier and the speaker cabinet? Absolutely not. No way should you ever put a pedal between the amplifier output and the speaker cabinet. Need to get a little bit technical here. If you're one of those people that complains when I do videos where I talk about stuff and I explain things, now's the time to go away, because I'm going to talk about things and I'm going to explain how stuff works and why you should or shouldn't do certain things. Let's look at what goes on in an amplifier, treat it as a set of like component parts. You've got the signal comes in at one end, it goes into what we call the preamplifier, the preamp. This takes a very, very low level of signal from the guitar. You can add some gain there, so this raises the level, possibly, more likely in a lot of cases, to the stage where it starts to overdrive and distort. And also in the preamp, that's where we've got what we call the tone stack. You know, the things that allow you to control the bass, the middle, the treble and whatnot. And that's basically what gives the amplifier its sound, its voice, really. Then we go from the preamp to the power amp stage, and the power amp stage, as the name suggests, it's all about power. That's what takes the signal that comes out of the preamp, which is the basic voice of the amplifier, and truly amplifies it. So if you've got a 20 watt amp or a 50 watt amp, that's where those watts are coming from. They're coming from the power amp, as it takes a signal and it boosts it up to a much higher level. And then it comes out of there and into the speakers. You could also have some pedals in there that change the tone of the guitar, add the overdrive or distortion modulation. Generally, things like compressors, filters, drive pedals would come before the preamp stage. And if you've got an effects loop, that sits between the preamp and the power amp, and that's where you generally would put in pedals like modulation, so chorus, phasers, flanges, and the time-based effects like delays and reverbs. But the important thing is here that anything that's a pedal, anything that works at a lower signal level, is happening before the power amp stage. The only thing that happens after the power amp is the actual creation of the sound by putting that power amp into a speaker. And I can understand why Zach had said, could I not just put a noise gate in there? And this is one, I think this is the most fundamental mistakes that was made in guitar amplifier design, is that the input for the guitar going into the amplifier, into all the pedals, it's one of these standard 6.5mm or 1/4 inch jack sockets. They use the same kind of connector for the connection between the power amp and the speakers. It makes sense. It only needs two channels, if you two wires. So the connector, the jack socket, jack plug connector supports that. But the thing is, the cable that you use for a guitar into the amplifier, or patch cables between pedals, the center part of the cable carries the signal, and the earth is just basically the sleeve of the cable. There's like a mesh sleeve in here, and it's designed, and it works perfectly well with the low power signals that we get out of the guitar or going through pedals. The speaker connection from the power amplifier, if all it uses the same type of plug, the connection between the plug and the cable itself and the type of cable is much different. It's designed to take much higher power. So if you connect an amplifier to a power amplifier to a speaker just using a guitar cable and really crank the power up, chances are the joints in the cable will fail, and then bad, expensive things happen. And you need to connect a power amplifier to an amplifier with a speaker cable. And the reason that I mentioned this so early on is to immediately dispel the idea that you can put a pedal or something between the power amplifier and the speaker. Yeah, in theory it looks like you can do it because the cables are the same shape and size, but they're not the same type of cable. If you did happen to plug a noise gate pedal or any other pedal in between the power amplifier and the speaker cabinet, two things would happen. First of all, you would destroy the pedal because you'd be putting a level of power through it that the components just weren't designed to handle. So you'd start to blow things in that pedal, and it would break. It would break, and then you would not have a circuit from the amplifier through the speaker. And that's when the second and the other more expensive thing happens, is the speaker. If you look at the back of your amplifier on the speaker connection, it'll have a rating. It'll say you go into like a 4 ohm speaker or an 8 ohm speaker or 16 ohms. Ohms is a level of resistance. It's basically saying the speaker that you plug in to the amplifier needs to have an electrical resistance of, let's say 8 ohms. So the amplifier electronics is expecting that kind of resistance. If it gets a different level of resistance, the amplifier will behave differently. If it has too much resistance, it will blow the transformer. It'll be trying to, it's trying to put signal out, and it's expecting it's going to be, restricted like by 8 ohms or 16 ohms or whatever. But if it's got like an infinite amount of resistance because you haven't plugged a cable in, so your speaker's not connected, it'll just blow the transformer. That's why you should never run an amplifier without a speaker connected to it, or some sort of load that offers up the same electrical resistance as the speaker would. So in the case where we've inadvertently plugged a pedal into the power amp output, what happens is the pedal will just be destroyed by the high levels of power. Then that will now be offering infinite resistance. There is no signal path through there whatsoever. That will then blow the transformer and delicate electronic parts inside the amplifier. So it's a bad thing to do. The only thing you should be plugging into your into the output of the power amp is a speaker or something which presents to the amplifier like a speaker. So something like a load box or an attenuator, something that is specifically designed to go in that position in the signal chain and is capable of handling those amounts of power. Because compared to the low level of signal that comes out of guitar pickups or low level of signal that goes through pedals, you're orders of magnitude greater when you look at the amount of power that's coming out of a power amplifier. You're literally talking tens or possibly hundreds of watts of power, and the electronics that go in between need to be able to cope with that. So that's the most important thing. Be careful what you plug into the power amp output of an amplifier, and just particularly don't put pedals in there. Let's get back to Zach's question though, because he was asking about a particular case he's got where he's got an amplifier which is a relatively high output amplifier, I think he said he was using, and it's got noise. He knows that the noise gate in his chain is working because he can turn it on, turn it off, and he gets a different level of noise. So if he's playing, I guess, with like single coil pickups, like on a Strat like this, which are just naturally prone to give you a certain amount of noise because they're single coil and it's the way the electronics work, that will introduce a certain amount of hum perhaps to the signal chain, particularly if you're stacking up drive pedals. A noise gate can help with that. But let's talk a bit about what a noise gate's doing. A noise gate is basically saying, I'm going to look at what we call like a noise floor. So this is you've got a certain amount of noise, whether it's coming from guitar pickups or like drive pedals or whatever you've got down on the floor, that when you're not playing anything, there's just a certain amount of hum or hiss or some background noise in the signal chain. And what a noise gate says is, well, whatever that volume is, if the signal's no louder than that, I'm going to shut the gate. I'm just not going to let any sound through. So if I'm just sitting here with my single coil pickups, drive pedals, but the noise gate is engaged, as long as I'm not playing, the gate's shut, so you're not hearing any signal. It's all nice and quiet. Then when you do play something, so there's the additional signal level of what's being induced by the pickups, then the gate opens and allows the signal through and you can hear the guitar being played. All that noise that's in the the chain anyway, that makes it through as well. It's not acting like some sort of EQ where we're tuning out particular frequencies. The noise gate is just saying, well, okay, I'm going to let the signal through if it's louder than the background noise. And the idea is basically when you're playing, the sound of the guitar, the notes that you're playing on the guitar, the sounds that come from the pickups, mask out the background noise. Then when you stop playing, the gate shuts and you don't hear the background noise. So from a dynamic point of view, you have control. Excuse me. Oh, don't you hate it when that happens? Sorry, that's very unprofessional. I lost my thread now. Where was I? Yeah, so noise gates. Close the gate when there's no pickup induced noise. Then when you do play something, the gate opens and you have the guitar signal coming through, but you have the noise as well, but the guitar signal masks it out. Zach's particular case was he's gone through his signal chain, looked at all the different parts and said, I know where the noise is coming from. The noise must be coming from the power amplifier because I'm eliminating noise at the various stages before that. There's no noise from the preamp, no noise in the effects loop. The noise is coming from the power amp. And I think really what we're seeing here is it's a symptom of high power amplifiers. You know, I've played guitar amplifiers from 1 watt up to 100 watts, if not more, over the years. And something you notice with higher wattage amplifiers, particularly if they've got a valve power stage, is they have a certain amount of noise. If you turn on the amplifier, it will just have some hum. It's not hum that's coming from the transformer that you can just hear in the room. It is actually in the signal path, and it's coming out through the speakers. But the interesting thing is, it's not so loud that it's overpowering in a given situation. I explained that really badly. Let me talk about the sort of context where you would use a higher wattage amplifier. If you're playing in a pub or a club or a venue where you want to be heard, you need an amplifier that projects over the background noise. You don't want your guitar playing to be masked by people having conversations, clinking of bottles and glasses on the bar, that sort of thing. You just need, that's why gigs generally are as loud as they are, is because it needs to mask out all of the background noise. So you need a louder amplifier. But what we need to think about is what the noise floor is for that amplifier. So if you think about the base level of noise for the venue is kind of up here somewhere. So that's just the general chatter and people ordering drinks at the bar and shuffling of feet as people are moving backwards and forwards. The noise level of the amp just that goes and just hums when you're playing is actually quieter than the background noise. If you turned on your amplifier in the empty venue, you would hear the noise of the amp just humming. But as soon as you get people in, they mask that out. Then when you increase the level of what's coming out of the amplifier by adding in guitar signal and you're amplifying the guitar and the effects and whatnot, it ends up being louder than the noise in the room. But the level of the guitar signal, what's being amplified, is so much louder than that background hum. The hum is lost in the signal. It's very much like when a noise gate opens and all that, the single coil hum or whatever comes through, you don't hear it because the guitar signal on top of it masks it out. Same thing with the power amp. Any noise that you have from the power amp is hidden by the volume of the guitar signal. If you transfer that high wattage amplifier and you bring it into a studio situation or you try and play it at home, you're just playing in a fairly sterile atmosphere and you start to hear that hum. But if you play at that, with the amplifier at a gig level, it'd be probably unmanageably loud in a confined space, like if you're playing in a little home studio like I'm in here. That's why generally at home you would play a lower wattage amplifier. Lower wattage amplifier is not as loud, but it's not as noisy, so you don't get as bothered by the noise. This brings me to the other thing that you can put between the power amplifier and the speaker, rather than just just a speaker cable. You can run a speaker cable from the amplifier to an attenuator, and then from the attenuator it goes out to a speaker. And what an attenuator does is it takes the signal in, and it's a bit like a master volume control. All this, the volume that goes into that is just attenuated, it's lowered. And depending on the type of attenuator, you might have just individual settings or a continuously variable knob that allows you to set how loud the output is, from like 0 attenuation, so you're getting the full level that comes out of the power amplifier, or a lot of attenuation, so it's really, really quiet. You don't hear the background noise, the hum of the amplifier as loudly, but the guitar signal itself is lower. The idea of an attenuator is just to make a loud amplifier usable in a more confined situation. I use them at home because sometimes I like to drive the power amp stage a little bit more, get a little bit of valve distortion going on. That's louder than I actually wanted in a space like this. But I use an attenuator, so I can put a lot of attenuation in, so I'm getting that valve overdrive, the power stage overdrive coming through, but the overall thing is then just pulled back. The overall volume is pulled back before it hits the speaker, so it's not too loud in the room. So getting back to Zach's particular case, can you mute the noise in the amplifier in some way? Yes, you could. You could use an attenuator, but it kind of defeats the object of having a loud, high wattage amplifier, because you want a loud, high wattage amplifier to be able to project the signal out in a room. Do we still need loud amplifiers nowadays? To be honest, they're a bit of an anachronism. Back in the day, yes, you had bands that would be playing with lots of 100-watt stacks and so on the stage. But nowadays, you really don't need that much on-stage volume. You don't need your amplifier to be that loud. There's a really strong argument for maybe having a lower wattage amplifier, so you can use it at home, you can use it in the studio, you can take it to a gig. When you're playing at the gig, that 10-watt or 20-watt amplifier might not be enough to do a gig with, but you can plug it into a bigger speaker cabinet. Like 4 12-inch speakers will give you more projection than just one 12-inch speaker. It's about like surface area. It doesn't necessarily make it louder, it just projects the noise more, the sound more. But the other thing you do is you just stick a microphone in front of it. You know, you see on stages amplifiers mic'd up, so there's a microphone, possibly 2 microphones in front of each speaker cabinet. They pick up the sound as it comes out of the speaker cabinet, and then they go into a PA speaker, and then that comes out through the PA speakers along with the vocalists' microphones, various other microphones. And you don't need to be projecting the sound out of your amplifier like a full 100-watt amplifier going full tilt. You could have a quieter amplifier, capture it with a microphone, and then boost that signal with a PA. It's a lot friendlier for you on stage because it's not a really loud amplifier right next to you. It's all coming out through the front of house. Yeah, so in my opinion, having a really high wattage amplifier is a bit unnecessary. Go for lower wattage and just have a good relationship with your front of house sound guy, and have microphone or microphones in front of the speaker cabinet. And think about microphone placement in front of the speakers as well. It affects your sound in some interesting ways. But use that to capture the sound and to project it, rather than having hundreds and hundreds of watts of power right beside you on the stage, and some of the inherent problems that brings. So that was a bit of a long-winded answer to the question, can you put a noise gate between the power amplifier and the speaker? It is no. And the reasons that you probably wouldn't need to do it is that's not what a noise gate is for. That's the type of noise that you're hearing there isn't what the noise gate was intended to deal with. The noise you're hearing there on a high power amplifier is a characteristic of a high power amplifier. Think about why you're using a high power amplifier. That's maybe if you went to a lower power amplifier, you would lose some of that noise and the problem would go away. I hope that helped. Okay, as always, thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please click like down there. If you really enjoyed it and you want to see other videos that are posted on the channel, then please click subscribe, which is also down there somewhere. Click the bell icon as well so you get notified of new videos as and when they get released. This video was prompted by a comment that was posted on one of my videos. YouTube's a bit rubbish at actually notifying me when people do comment on videos, so if there's something specific you want to ask me, whether it's about guitar gear, guitar playing, music theory, anything at all, you're probably better off going here. If you fill that form in, the question comes direct to me and I can get around to answering your question in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.